Hi guys. I don't really mean to go live so much, but something told me to go live on my front porch tonight about this particular subject, and I'm qualified to do it, and it might be helpful and it's interesting, and at least I think so. And I figured, why the heck? I'm in my front porch again, the lights on in front, so you can see my front door and everything. This is my mom. This is I almost said my mom's house. No, this is my house, which my mom does not live in. Okay, whatever, slipped there. Anyway, the subject I want to talk about tonight is modern physics, the Big Bang, and its relationship to the existence of God. Okay, and it's important to me, so let me just do my little thing. Um, let's first of all, let's assume there is no God and assume that all there is what science knows. And science knows slash believes that the universe started with a Big Bang. That actually is very likely. Whether there's a God or not, let's just pretend that whether the Big Bang happened or not, there's also not a God in this scenario. Um, well, there's a thing that it says there's a saying that says what comes up must come down. What goes up, nothing, nothing uh, mortal can. Only something immortal can make something else immortal. So if the universe started with the Big Bang, the fact according to science, it's not even a question, it's a fact. The universe will have a heat death in a few billion years, and that's the second law of the second law of thermodynamics says that entropy is always increases in a natural reaction, and entropy is randomness or disorderliness. Therefore, every natural reaction involves an increase in randomness and disorder, not vice versa. And in science, the word for change is delta, as in the letter D, capital in Greek. And the letter for entropy is S, because they can't use E because that's energy. So they had to pick S. So delta S is greater than zero, means that change in entropy or randomness is greater, is positive, or greater than is more it is greater than zero for any natural reaction, which itself means that randomness always increases in anything that happens naturally. So if the universe started with a Big Bang, it will end, and probably in a few billion years, without an immortal God to sustain it. And the only question is, and the interesting thing I want to bring out is that it depends on, there's a few options in how it ends, though. That's the thing. So I hope that this isn't too long and boring, but the, there's three different outcomes for the way it could end. The universe I'm talking about, all of this, everything we see and don't see, so for that matter, as far as dark matter and dark energy and all that. There's two opposing forces, or you could call it forces, I guess, acting on the universe. One is the expansion tendency, because if it's a Big Bang, everything from that bang is going to expand outward for infinity, forever, or as long as it exists. Not forever, but as long as it exists. But then at the same time, there's a force of gravity that wants to pull everything back to the beginning, back to the where it started in the Big Bang. That's just sheer gravity, and the scientists don't know whether gravity or contraction will end up winning, or if expansion from the energy of the Big Bang will win, or don't forget this option that they will equal out, that the expansion energy and the gravitational pull contraction energy will actually end up equaling each other and staying the same. And so these three different outcomes are all the three possible ways that the universe will die in a heat death without the existence of God. And what they call the big crunch is if gravity wins. If gravity wins, gravity is going to pull the whole universe back into the opposite of the Big Bang, which is called a big crunch, and it will end in a big crunch. It sounds funny, but it really won't be if you're there to survive it. Okay, then there's the big rip. That's if the universe expands faster than gravity can take over. So the universe will just be so thin and just be dispersed like a big rip, and just fade away into nothingness, into the expansion, of the universe. And that's what would be the big rip. Yeah, the third possibility is if gravity and expansion end up balancing out, the universe will just it's called the big freeze. The universe will just stick there and die as it just sits in idleness and nothingness and just stillness. The two forces will balance out in that scenario. We don't know which one. When I say we, I mean scientists. Which one of those three is going to be the case? All we do know for sure is that those are the three possibilities based on the two forces of expansion and gravity, and that the universe will die in one of those three ways. So fair enough. And that doesn't really prove that talk right there doesn't prove the existence of God or not, but it does give an idea that, to me, the truth seeker has several variables to his experience. First is what does he believe, what does he or she believe is truth? Secondly, what does he or she think about that truth, or feel about that truth? What's your feeling about it? And then thirdly, what are you going to do about it? Well, this, I think, addressed the second of those three. Sorry. What I feel about the truth of the Big Bang and the Big Rip Crunch Freeze is I don't feel very happy about that. I mean, it may be true if there's no God, and I'm not going to argue that point in this video, but it's not a pleasant theory to believe in. It doesn't give much joy or hope from my end to me, because all we have to speculate on is when and how the universe is going to come to an end, but not if it does, because it will. Only an immortal God can keep this universe, together and existing forever. So that's just a tidbit to think about, and that's something I think about. I'm not telling you what to do, but it's something I think about. It's something I think. And then I want to mention just one more, just one more thing. I think I have one more thing, and when it comes to physics and God, that was the macro relativity realm of physics that I just discussed. And then there's the physics of the man, the natural physics of man, and Earth, things we can see and control, and that. But then there's also the opposite, the other direction, the micro world of, it's called quantum physics. And that's also very interesting. In fact, the scientists like Stephen Hawking, one of the greatest minds of forever, I suppose, tried to put those two theories, quantum mechanics, which is for the very, very small things, and relativity for the very big things, together so that they can both be correct, considered, and consistent with each other. And what they're looking for is the theory of everything, or unified field theory. And interestingly, no one yet has done it, but that doesn't prove it doesn't exist. It just proves that we haven't been able to find it if it does exist. Because that's actually funny that the theories of quantum mechanics or quantum physics, quantum mechanics, actually contradict the theories of relativity, and the theories of relativity contradict the theories of quantum mechanics. In other words, as far as we can tell, if quantum mechanics is true, relativity isn't true. If relativity is true, then quantum mechanics isn't true. So we're left with two theories that can't both be true, and no solution that makes them both true or covers both ground of both of them. So modern physics has not been a complete success in its thought, but good effort. Stephen Hawking was brilliant. And my dad had the same disease he did. My dad had Lou Gehrig's disease and died of it, just like Stephen Hawking did. My dad, well, I'm not going to win my dad. My adoptive dad right now. I'm not talking about Jim Morrison, my possible natural dad. But anyway, enough of that. So the thing about quantum mechanics that's interesting in the discussion about the theory of God is that there's two forces, as far as I can remember from my studies. There's two forces those three forces that are microscopic, and only one that deals with relativity. The four forces of nature. We don't know if there's a fifth force, and it could be a fifth force. It could even be a 10th force. I don't know. There's four known forces in physics. There's the force of gravity, which explains big things like the universe and all that. Then there's three forces that deal with the quantum mechanics, and that's the electromagnetic force, the weak nuclear force, and the strong nuclear force. I'm not going to get into too much detail, but the electromagnetic force basically implies something about the strong nuclear force that makes the strong nuclear force very unlikely to exist, and suggests that if it does, maybe a god is making that strong nuclear force be. And that by calling it the strong nuclear force, you're putting a name on what you're basically saying is a proof of God. Because defining something, putting a name on it, doesn't change whether it's from God or not. You can call it whatever you want, but if that strong nuclear force seems to contradict, or does contradict, in as far as we can tell, the electromagnetic force, and therefore it's thought that maybe God is that strong nuclear force is actually some part of the force of God that holds this universe together, or in this case, the atom together. I'm talking about the microscopic now. I'll go into it really briefly. But the atom has a nucleus and electrons around it. The nucleus has protons, which are positive charge, neutrons, which have no charge, and then the electrons are going around the nucleus have negative charge. So electrons negative, protons zero. I mean, protons positive, neutrons zero. So the question is, according to the conundrum is, according to the electromagnetic force says that like charges repel and unlike opposite charges attract. So an electron and a proton would repel, but no, would attract. Sorry, electron and a proton would attract, but two protons would repel and two electrons would repel, and neutrons wouldn't be different. Would be unaffected. The problem is that the strong nuclear force keeps the nucleus, which is a bunch of protons together, and that is a direct contradiction of the electromagnetic force, which says that those protons that form the nucleus of the atoms that we make up everything we are and see physically should just fly apart. That ball of protons that's in the nucleus of the atom should not even be held, should not even be sticking together like they do. And then it's thought that God is somehow involved in that strong nuclear force that holds the nucleus of protons together, because there's no reason a bunch of protons should stick together like that. And we call it or physicists call it the strong nuclear force, but that doesn't mean that calling something a name doesn't mean you understand really the process or much less what causes it. So that's an argument for God in that. What if God is somehow responsible for the fact that the nucleus of protons and neutrons, but mainly protons considered here, stay together instead of flying apart like the electromagnetic force says that they should. Love you guys. Peace, rock and roll. Have a great night.